calls. We found that Twitch can be a very good platform for us, so this is where we're going to be streaming from these days. Um, right, today's program, you can see there, that's the program. News, season restart, and we're going to look at Manchester City's team and Man United's team and then see what challenges they will be having uh, next summer. Um, right, so let's start with the news. Now, in the news at the moment, really everything is about COVID-19 and whether we should be having a restart of the season, whether there will be a restart of the season. I think there will be. Um, we know the actual date, which we'll discuss as part of the next topic. But there is some fears. I mean, if you look at, let me just put that off. Sorry. So if we look at the the first few tests that have been done, 748 people have been tested, and of that 748, there were six positive cases. Now, that might not seem a very significant number, but it does play an influence on whether players want to return or not. Aguero has already stated he's not for it. So has Troy Deeney. I read this morning that Nicolo Kante, who tested positive for the coronavirus, has been told that if he doesn't want to play out the season restart, he doesn't have to, which I think is fair. I think a lot of teams would want to restart. Um, Not sure whether everybody wants that, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. It's already been said there's not going to be a lot of transfers. Business is not going to be as usual. I'm going to get into that just quickly as part of the news because this covers all the teams, not just City and United. Also, at this point, let me just mention the reason why Dave is not here is because two reasons. One, he's moved into a new apartment, so he's busy setting himself up. Um, Go Haaland, go to United. I love that. I love that. I won't say Haaland will go to United. Let's cover that quickly as part of the news. If we look at what Woodward said in his call to the investors last night, he made it very clear that at this moment there isn't money for it. He didn't say that directly, but if you read between the lines, that's what he said. He also said business will not be as usual. Our net debt at United increased by 127 million pounds, which is a hell of a lot of money. Now, that is mostly contributed to the fact that if you look at the amount of money that we lost from gate receipts and obviously some sponsorships, etc., it just isn't there. The money isn't there, really, to be honest. Last season, United made what? 74 million in cash equivalents, which is really, really good. But only 28 million of that was actual cash. So where are they going to buy new players from? We owe like 400 million to other clubs for player transfers that has not been paid yet because you don't pay all of the money in the first time. You pay a little bit up front now, and then there's some other bonuses that come and play with it. So the money is just not there. And I don't think the money will be there for any club at this moment. Not for any club. Let me make that very clear. So these big name transfers are not going to happen right now. Will it happen next season or maybe the season after that? Yes. But I don't think anything big is going to happen this transfer window. Um, so that covers that. Just to finish off with why Dave is not here, he's moved into a new apartment and obviously also the COVID virus, which is why in this show we will cover both Man United and Man City. We've got a friendly rivalry between me and Dave. Dave has been winning the last few seasons just because City has been uh, spending more than what they are supposed to, which is why they have a 2-year ban. So, yay me. But that's where it is. So, let's look at what is going to happen with the season restart. Let me put that there. All right. So, this is what we're covering right now. The season restart is is already being confirmed. It's going to be the 20th of June. It's not been published everywhere, but we do have some good info coming that it will be the 20th of June, that the clubs will restart. All 9 games has to play. And also, it will be played on a very short scale. So they're looking at 3 games a week. So they want to do it in 3 weeks. The FA Cup has to be completed. The Champions League has to be completed, and the Europa League has got to be completed, and it all has to be done by middle August so the new season can start in September, and there will be no pre-seasons. So what does that mean? Again, in terms of transfers, not going to see many. United would get easily between £1 million to £2 million in a pre-season. That's not going to happen now. It was money that was terribly needed, and now it's not available. So it's not going to happen. But if we look at the season restart, is it really needed? Is it that we should go for it? And I don't think so. I think if we look at the season, I think we should have just scrapped it, like we did or like they did in France, and just declare someone a champion. I don't want to see Liverpool be champions. In fact, I would have loved it had they not been champions. But let's give it credit where credit is due. They played better than everybody else, and if we look at the points difference, they're already on 82 points. City has been on 57. Realistically, I mean, if we look at mathematically, can Liverpool still lose and can City still win? Yes, mathematically. But that means that Liverpool's got to lose all 9 of the games that are remaining, and City's got to win all 9 games that are remaining. And that way, City will win. So I don't think that is realistic. So just give it to Liverpool, and let's move on with the season. I feel sorry for the bottom 3 clubs, Norwich, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, Watford, West Ham. I mean, but it is what it is. If you haven't played well enough to, with 9 games remaining, be in the save the zone, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, then you go down and the other teams get an opportunity to go up. Just call the season. Make it safe for everybody. But not going to happen, right? They want the season to restart. It's going to happen. I think the teams that have protested had been someone like Chelsea, for instance. United is only 3 points behind. Wolves are looking good. Sheffield is still in with us out, but I don't think they're going to be challenging for that last Champions League spot. But I think Chelsea is very nervous and will probably want the season just to be called to make sure that they've got the spot. Because United has been on an 11-game unbeaten run. And Chelsea had been a bit hot and cold. I just don't think Chelsea would have liked to see this restart happen, but it's going to happen, and that's just the way it is. So let's move on from that. I look forward to seeing football again. I don't like the fact that it's going to be behind closed doors. It just doesn't feel like football for me. I tried watching the Schalke and Dortmund game, which should have been a great game. And I think had there been crowds, it would have been a great game. But it really felt like a ball watching essentially what looked like a training grounds match between an A and a B side. No excitement, no atmosphere. Even when they scored goals, it wasn't a massive celebration. It was like, yeah, I scored a goal. Okay, yeah, elbow high five. Here we go. Yeah, we scored a goal. Come on, that's not football. Football needs supporters. You need to hear the crowd singing and chanting, and you need to have excitement going. And what ended up was just something boring. It was sad. It's not the way that you want football to return. You want football to return and uplift, and be exciting. And that's not what we saw. It's not what we saw at all. And it is a great, great pity that this is the way it's going to go. I can't help but feel it's all about money. It's about getting the revenue in from TV broadcasts. Um, and that's all it really is. I think the clubs need the money. I can understand that. Again, if you look at someone like United, I mean, a monthly bill is £8 million in salaries only, let alone anything else. £8 million in salaries. That's what they're losing at the moment. So you can imagine smaller teams that don't have the big financial backing, they're all struggling. They're all looking for help. Government is not going to give them that amount of money. The Premier League is not going to give them that amount of money. And even if you have insurances, you don't have every player insured. So you're going to have expenses. Your back staff, they're all going to have. You can't furlong because we saw what happened to Liverpool and the amount of criticism that they got when they said, oh, they're going to furlong staff. You can't do it. So you've got to think about the clubs as well. But I would have said, close the season off, pay out the winnings, and let's start the season fresh. That's what I would have said. I mean, what is City going to do if they can't play Aguero, if he refuses to play? Jesus is a great player, but still not convincing as a world-class player, is he? I mean, he can score goals, but it's all against the lower side teams where he scores his, a hat-trick or doubles, but it just doesn't seem to be there when he plays top teams. So what are they going to do? What if Grealish says, sorry, Aston Villa, I love you guys, but I can't risk it for my family's sake. I've got kids. I'm not going to play. Where's Aston Villa going to be then? So if you look at that type of dynamic, if you look at Troy Deeney potentially not wanting to play, you already have Chelsea that's going to be without Kante, critical player to them. What benefit is that going to be to the teams? And these lower side teams that we have, I mean, if you look at teams like West Ham, you look at teams like Brighton, you look at teams like Southampton, these guys must be shitting their pants going like, hey, listen, we're safe at the moment, but if our key players are not playing, if we've got a few players that all of a sudden come down with the coronavirus and they're out for the next 2 weeks, that means that effectively they won't play any of the games. So what are they going to do? They're going to lose games if the other teams have got their full first team alive. Is that fair or unfair? It's unfair. So why bring the football back? There are teams that are going to benefit from this, though. The teams with the biggest, strongest depth, they're going to benefit. I, myself as a United supporter, I should probably be saying, hey, let's restart the season. You look at Man United's depth, it's probably the best in the league. You look at players, just look at the midfield, for instance. You've got Pogba that's going to come back. You've got McTominay. You've got Fred. You've got Pereira. You've got Fernandes. You've got Lingard. I don't know if I should be putting Lingard in that, but okay. So you've got Mata. You've got Gomez. You've got Chong. You've got, I mean, you look at United's depth just in the midfield alone. It's fantastic. So, for a team like that, it's beneficial to United to restart. We'll probably beat Chelsea in the end. We'll probably compete for that third place with Leicester and probably finish third, and I think that will be a magnificent achievement. But again, when you think about this, if you think about players going out, playing football, while the rest are all sitting at home and they're not even able to go out and support the games, is that really football? Is that what people want? And I just don't think it. It's sad. It almost feels unfair. You're allowed to go out and to go work because that's what footballers do. They're allowed to work. And then you've got people sitting at home not being able to pay their bills, being furlonged, or having massive salary reductions. They can watch football, okay, great, but do you know what? These guys are earning a salary. I'm not allowed to. Why is that happening? So it is all just about Premier League wanting money. And they should have been strong enough to say, do you know what? We're going to call the season. Done. If you're unhappy about that, you're unhappy about it. And then have the balls to make a call and say, all right, you know what? Either we forfeit the season, no champion, and Liverpool are all up in arms, and Liverpool supporters all freak out and go, oh, we should have won the league, blah. Or go and say, all right, you know what? We got to call the season. Liverpool are champions. There we go. Everybody happy. And then you would have had all the other clubs go like, oh, we can't declare. But make a call without having to risk lives, without having to risk people getting infected, without making this look as if this is a purely financially motivated decision, which 100% it is. It is purely financially motivated. So I can't agree with the season restart, and I think probably most people will feel the same way. That's just my feeling. But again, season is going to restart. We don't make those decisions, and we have to, go by what Premier League decides they want to do, whether we like it or not. So let's discuss. Now that we know there's not going to be any transfers, I do want to go over and let's discuss Manchester City for a second. I think, and I wish Dave was here because, I would love to rub it in right now. I think City is in trouble, regardless of the fact that they don't have 2 years of Champions League. I think City generally is in trouble. And I'm going to tell you why. Let me put up their pitch map for you. Okay. So this is City's team. Let's get that. So this is mostly what City plays. The strong thing is that they do have 2 players for every position, which is great. 100%. Let's have a look at something quickly. Otamendi. I love the fact that they play him because he makes a huge amount of mistakes. So, there's somebody that has to be replaced, I think. And I think quietly, City supporters would probably be saying the same. Jones. Stones. That's my mistake there. Stones needs to go as well. Let's have a look here. Fernandinho, over his age now, he's getting a bit slower. He's not a constant help anymore. So they've got to replace Fernandinho. And in fact, they've moved him to centre back because he's not good enough to cover that. Well, I won't say good enough, but he just doesn't have the legs anymore to cover that central defensive role that is now placed for Rodrigo and Gundogan. Let's look at the next one. Sane. Sane, great player. Terrible attitude. Already has said he wants to move back to Germany. Bayern Munich is very interested. I think there's probably a few other German clubs that are interested in him. I think it's a good move for both sides if Sane goes. I think Sane wants to go. I think the best is let him go. Don't keep him. If the boy doesn't want to be there, the boy doesn't want to be there. Let him go. Let's look at the next person. Garcia. A boy with great talent, but not enough experience. So City needs someone there. David Silva. Oh my word. What a fantastic player. Absolutely brilliant player. But again, just like with Fernandinho, age gets to us all. David Silva is not the guy anymore that can start every single game. And that's what they need. In that central role, whether you are a defending player like Fernandinho or whether you're an attacking player like Kevin De Bruyne, you want somebody that can play 20, 25 games, in a season, just in the Premier League alone, let alone all the other competitions that you have. You want them to be able to perform week in and week out. David Silva will always perform every game he plays, but he's just not physically able to anymore. So there's another player that they have to replace. Aguero, what a massive loss he's going to be to City. I don't know who they're going to get to replace him. I don't think there's a lot of clubs that will be willing to sell their star players right now, even to City, even for big money, because who are they going to bring in? And will they be willing to lose um, their players and not be able to buy themselves? Let's look, for instance, let's say you go and you buy Haaland. Haaland is probably worth more than 100. If they wait 2 seasons, 3 seasons, when all the clubs have their money back and they've recovered some of their losses and their books look a little bit better, they can probably get 150 for Haaland. Right now, if they were to want to sell him, what would clubs be willing to pay? 60 to 80, simply because of what the conditions are. So you've got to think about yourself. Who is City going to get to replace Aguero? And we already know it's his last season. His last season's coming up, and then he's done. He's already said that publicly. So again, that's a need. Now, if you look at that, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first-team players. That is a worrying thing for City. That needs replacing. So I fear for City, although quietly obviously happy about it. But I think they're going to struggle come next season. Having said that, they do have strong players to take themselves to carry the team. Number one, obviously, being Kevin De Bruyne. I think any world team you have right now, you've got to pick Kevin De Bruyne. Fantastic player, great vision. It always seems like he's got time on the ball. He can strike it well. He's just an amazing player, but he needs support around him. You've already seen him be frustrated on the field with players like Otamendi, with Stones, with even Sterling, when Sterling doesn't make the right runs that De Bruyne is expecting him to do. Jesus not running behind so that De Bruyne can't put the ball in behind. He needs players to support him. So even though he's a fantastic player, City's got to look at who they're going to get to replace him or play with him. Sterling, do you know what? I'm going to be fair to Sterling. I've given him a lot of slack. And I've become a good supporter of him because I think the amount of criticism that he had and the amount of pressure that he had and the media negativity that he had to turn out the type of player that he has and the type of person that he's become in terms of how he displays himself publicly has been fantastic. And hats off to him. Great player, plays week in, week out. He did some stupid things. All boys do, right? But what an amazing player. So there's another one that City can keep, and that's just a star player. Laporte, oh, what a centre-back. What a centre-back. I think, again, one of those players, any world team, if they have a spot open, would want to take. Great player. I don't think City has got to worry there. But again, that's one of the centre-backs. So you've got to have 4. You've got to have 4 centre-backs in your squad. And City is going to be left with one decent centre-back. Left back, Mendy. Amazing player again. Okay. Off-field antics. Off-field antics is not that good. Let's admit it. I think he's somebody that gives a lot of headaches to Pep. It's something that you probably wouldn't want to take in or take on as a manager, but great player, absolutely great player, and I think he should be there. Then you've got lastly Rodrigo. Now Rodrigo is a good player, a really good player. I won't say world class, but is a good player. I think he's going to be very valuable to City. I don't think City has seen the best of him yet, but it's coming. It's coming. He's shown signs of settling into the team. Um, he's starting to find chemistry with those around him, and I think that's going to carry City. But unfortunately, if you look at that team set up there, biggest concern is your centre backs, um, and then obviously your strikers, and then you've got one attacking midfielder or holding midfielder that you would have to have come in. Garcia doesn't need to leave. I think Foden is a good player, but you can't have De Bruyne, Foden, and Garcia. You need somebody else. And Gundogan, again, is he going to be the guy that's going to play 30, 35 games in the Premier League season in, season out come next season? I don't think so. I don't think he's strong enough. I don't think he's fit enough. And I've got a feeling that he wants to go back to Germany. I think he wants to go back to Dortmund. But again, it hasn't been highlighted that much. But again, there are question marks. And I've always said, where there's a little bit of smoke, there's definitely some fire. So maybe he wants to go back. So that being said, that's our City team. I'm not going to talk too much about City because usually that's Dave's job. And I don't really care much for the fact that they need so many players and so many people. All right. Let's go over to... Let me just get that. And let's say, boom, United. Now, United's got a completely different scenario. And I think people are justifiably excited about United's future. I think United had been struggling. There were question marks about Solskjaer. I've criticized Solskjaer, not because he's made many mistakes, but I just didn't think he was the right guy for the job at the time. I thought somebody like Blanc would have been a better call. Even maybe Ancelotti, and dare I say it, even Benitez. But Solskjaer had come out and, shown he's a great manager, and he stands by what he wants to do and what he wants to achieve, and I thought that was a very good move. He criticized when he had to, nothing unnecessarily, nothing for being over emotional, which is something that Mourinho did quite often, which obviously didn't turn out very well for him. But, he's made the right calls. And subsequently, United looks in a very, very good position. And let me show you what I mean. So there's United's formation that they play mostly. 4-3-3, two holding midfielders. Now, if you look at our team, I think very balanced. And I think very well balanced. So, you can go through that team. Before I tell you which guys is a bit of a concern and which ones I feel are going to be world-class players and going to carry us for the next couple of seasons and predominantly so next season, let me just quickly talk. Let's just quickly go through this team. You got Williams, McTominay, Pereira, Fernandes, Rashford, James, Bissaka, Taylor, Lindelof, Mensah. These are all young kids. These are all kids that still have a long, long time with United and a long, long way to go. And these guys are all improving. I am very excited to see how this team is going to go. Is this a team that's going to win the Premier League? No, I don't think so next season. I know this is not what Man United fans want to hear, but it's just it's a team that I think that we can build on going forward. I'm going to cover who I feel is a bit of a concern at the moment. You might or might not agree with me, but here we go. Mata. Now, let me explain. Mata, to me, I love Mata. And, he's a great ambassador for United. He's an amazing player. But again, much like with, Fernandinho, he just doesn't have the legs anymore. He was never a quick player when he started off anyway. But, good timer of the ball. He can see a pass before he even gets the ball. He makes clinical runs. He reads the game very, very well. So, I love Mata, but unfortunately, time catches us all. And there's a player that's unfortunately probably going to do his last season next season. So he's going to be a player that has to be replaced. Not for a lack of effort, not for a lack of performance. Simply, he's just not physically capable of performing on the level that is required. And you can't give that right-hand position to James only, because James has still got a lot to learn. He's still got a lot to improve on. So, can you maybe move Greenwood into assisting James? Again, Greenwood, player with lots of potential. But giving him such a big role without allowing him to settle in and get used to the team, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think Man United needs to look at that position and get somebody in there. Next one, Lingard. And oh my God. Where do I start on Lingard? Or maybe I should ask, where do I end on Lingard? I think the best thing to say is he should leave. I think he should go to PSG. I think it would suit him down to a T. I think his entourage that he has assembled or collected can go with him. I think if he can go down there and do his old links moves and brand and whatever, I think it would be very, very good for him. And maybe he'll play a little bit better. But I'm sorry. He's just not where he should be. And I don't think it's a question of ability. I think it's about mentally. He's just not there. I mean, if you rate yourself Messi, if you think you can be compared to Messi, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, he calls himself Messi Lingard, and he's got his entourage calling him Messi Lingard. And he says that the coaches at United thought that they could compare him to Messi. I mean, what are you smoking? Honestly. And whatever you're smoking, get rid of it. Don't market it. Don't sell it, because it's lethal. It kills your brain cells. You cannot come into that mentality where you compare yourself to one of the greatest players of all time. Especially if you can't perform week in and week out. It's just ridiculous. And I think because he wants to be in that category, he puts so much pressure on himself that he cannot perform, and then he just gets more and more negative, feels more and more pressure to perform, and then it's like this evil cycle that continues. And I think the best is if he just moves on. He's one of the older people in the team now. He should be considered a leader. He's still acting like a kid. So, move on, boy. Just go and do your fashion thing and be happy with it, okay? Number 3, Matic. No, Nemanja Matic. All right. Fantastic player when he was at Chelsea. When he came to United, he looked really, really good. And I think he's lost motivation. I think he's lost his mojo. He's only turning 31, or he is 31 at the moment. he's still probably got another 2 years or 2 seasons, as a holding midfielder. But I can't help but think that if you have got someone like McTominay and Fred that's going to be playing next to Paul Pogba, that there is not a place for for someone like Matic. I just don't. I don't see how it is. I don't see how they can all fit. And I think Matic will probably end up realizing, I need to move on. He's not going to get 20 games. He's not going to get 30 games. He's going to get 10 games, FA Cup, League Cup, and maybe if we're in the Champions League, maybe a few subs appearances. But I can't see him being a first team regular anymore, and that's what he wants. I think Fred, with his determination and passion, which is what Solskjaer looks for, I think he's going to be a selection above Matic every single time. So I think we would probably end up parting ways with Matic next season. Towards the end of next season, of course. I think he'll be playing next season, but I think at the end of next season he's going to go. These are the only three players that I think United has got to replace. If we look at the players who I feel the star players, Pogba. Now, let's talk just for 2 minutes or 3 minutes on Paul Pogba. Am I a fan of Paul Pogba? No. Openly, I'll admit it, I am not a fan of Paul Pogba. I don't like the way he handles himself. I don't like the way how he allows his agent to freely speak his mind and criticize clubs and players and managers. I don't think his entire public appearance or way that he portrays himself is good for the team or the club. However, he is undeniably talented. Undeniably talented. And from what we understand, Pogba did want to go. However, with the acquisition of Fernandes and with the team starting to play a lot better, with the emergence of Fred, with the positive attitude that Ighalo has brought in, with the way that Wan-Bissaka has started playing, the team is starting to look a lot better. The team is starting to look like they can compete. The 11-game streak of being unbeaten that have come in, that all of these things have pushed him to now want to stay at Man United. Now, I think partly because nobody's going to buy him at the rate that United would probably want to stand for. United is not going to sell him for less than what they bought him for. How many clubs can afford that? Definitely not Barca. Barca being in serious financial troubles. They have a massive, massive salary bill. They're losing £800,000 in a week in terms of players' salaries. I mean, they have got no income really coming in at the moment. It is a massive problem that they have. So Barca is not going to be able to pay money for Paul Pogba. The same with Real Madrid. Real Madrid is not going to pay 100 or 120 million for a midfielder right now. There is no big team in the world that's going to do it. So Paul Pogba has got no other choice but to suck it up, get in the team, and start playing the way that he can play. And I think he's going to do it. I genuinely think he's going to do it. I see him playing in that number 6 role. I think for Juve, he could have pushed up a little bit further, and he looked good being that semi-6, semi-10 position. But I think 6 is where he's good. I think that's where his vision, his ability to generate momentum going forward, his way of changing the direction of the game. It That's where his strength is, and I think that's where he needs to play. I think he needs to be playing six. Star player. I think when he comes back and he plays with either McTominay or Fred in the midfield with Fernandes in front, I think it's going to be a really really good combination. The next person, McTominay. What an emergent this Scottish kid has been. I look at McTominay and I see the type of player that made United great in the 90s. That guy who goes out and plays his absolute heart out. He puts it all on the pitch, all on the line, and he's all about United. There was a picture of him sitting outside the on the grounds. Everybody had left. There was a news crew doing a little piece about how terribly United's season had ended, etc. And then just off camera, you could see McTominay all on his own, sitting in one of the chairs next to the stadium, and you could almost feel how disappointed he was about the way that the season had ended. And you could see that desire for wanting to do better. And you could not help but just gain respect for him. Whether you support McTominay or not, whether you support Man United or not, you could not help but feel for this guy and realize how much he wants to play for Man United and how much he wants the team to do well. So again, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. And I definitely give him a gold star rating. Then, unsurprisingly, Rashford. I mean, when he's coming back, I don't know if Rashford is going to be the same player after his injury, but I think he's going to come back and perform from the get go. There's not much that I can say about Rashford other than what we all know already. He's fast. He's got an eye for goal. He's not afraid to put it on the line. He makes the right type of runs. I think he's going to be a fantastic player come next season for us and even down the years down the line. Williams, what a find. What a find. And to be able to compete for that left back position with Shaw, wow. I mean, give the kid credit. I read a piece on where they interviewed Williams and they asked him, like, why are you playing? What has been the biggest thing that made you play well? And he was just like, you've got to know there's going to be players better than you. But when you given the opportunity, you have to grab it with both hands. This kid's not afraid of who he plays with or against. Who he's marking. He studies them. He makes sure that he understands where they're going to go. And he's prepared. This is a kid that wants to play football. And again, definitely someone who I can see down the line being a fantastic servant for Man United. Very excited to see how this is going to end up for him. Let's look at the next player, Maguire. Now, Maguire is one of those players who's loved and criticized at the same time. Let me make something clear. It doesn't matter what we bought a player for, right? Because he doesn't get that money. That's between two different clubs. You look at what he brings to the team. Now, did he have a fantastic start to his Man United career? No. But there has been a lot said about what he brings to the dressing room. He's been a great servant. He's immediately picked up they want to win. And, he wants to win badly. And he's not afraid to speak his mind. And he's become a leader. And that is what Man United was lacking. They lacked leadership. And it was highlighted in the time that Zlatan Ibrahimovic was at Man United, where everybody spoke about what a great leader he is and how he impacts the team and how he motivates the team and how he doesn't allow you to slack off and how he criticizes you openly in the dressing room and on the training ground if you do not perform at the level that you are expected to. And that's what you need in a team. When you're earning 200, 300,000 pounds a week, you're going to feel like, hey, who are you to tell me how much I should be training or how hard I should be training, etc. You need one of the other players that's bigger than you to come over and say, hey, pull your socks up or get the fuck out of the team. And that kind of personality, that kind of leadership was required, and he brought it. So, kudos to him. Gold star rating to Maguire. I think he's definitely one of the players who's going to be fantastic for United. And then one of my personal favourites, Wan-Bissaka, the Spider. This guy is just one of the best tacklers, one-on-one, I have seen in years, in absolute years. Not afraid to go down. And when he does go down, he times it so well. He times it absolutely amazing. I saw a stat, and I can't remember if the stat would still be correct or not, because, it was in January. I can't remember when in January exactly, but the stat was that, he only commits a foul once in every 16 sliding tackles. 1 in every 16. And that is amazing. If you think about how football had become a little bit like the NBA, you touch someone, they fall over, foul. It's become a little bit of a sissy game. But if you think about the fact that Bissaka, 1 in every 16 tackles that he goes down, he commits a foul, that is amazing. That's just fantastic. He's quick. He's willing to go up and run down the line, and then if he loses the ball, tracks back. Someone like Gary Neville highlighted that so many times, how hard you need to work as a wingback. And that's usually where players struggle. You look at Wan-Bissaka, wow, the boy has done amazingly well. And then if you look at someone like, who his competition for the position is, Taylor. Taylor, I think, is a great player. I think he's underrated. He's come back from injury and immediately wanted to play as if he's never been injured before, which is kudos to him. But, you keep that kind of player out of the team. So I think Wan-Bissaka is world class, and I don't give that type of rating to a lot of players, but I think Wan-Bissaka is world class. I think he's going to be for Man United, someone like Patrice Evra for United, what he was, or Marcelo currently for Real, or maybe even Roberto Carlos. He strikes me that kind of player who's going to, maybe not in terms of scoring goals, but in terms of his commitment and his ability to put the ball into the box and to track back, to tackle successfully, be hard, and just be a menace to anybody on the left side of the opposing team. I think he is going to be a catalyst for United. So that is my assessment. And if I think about the two teams, if we compare the United team with the City team, I think United is far better off at this point in time, where the season is going to go. And I think even in terms of buying power and where the teams need to be, I think United is in a much better position, and I think United will be challenging, for second and third place come next season. I still think Liverpool would probably be the favourites to take the 2021 season. I don't think City would be considered favourites. I think they've shown that they've become vulnerable. We've just analysed the teams and seen how many players need to leave and how many players need to come in for various reasons. They're not all bad. Stones and Otamendi are the ones that are pretty bad, and they need to go. But David Silva, Fernandinho, great servants, but just don't have the legs anymore. And Sane is already gone. Mentally the boy is not wanting to play for the Premier League anymore. He wants to go back to Germany, and I think he should be allowed to. Players should be allowed to go where they feel they need to. So that is my perspective. You know, you are welcome to email us. Let me put our email address up on the screen there for you. Um, there you go. You can email us. You don't have to agree with us. But yeah, if there's anything football related, specifically in terms of the Premier League, obviously, that you want to discuss, you are welcome to email us those questions and we'll discuss it on the show and go through that. If you have any suggestions, maybe the timing that we are streaming doesn't suit you where you are, send us through that information as well and tell us what time zone you are in and what time you would like it to be streamed. And, you know, we will structure the streaming of Blokes and Balls according to what most of our fans want and most of our followers want. Drop a follow for us if you liked it. We are recording these streams. They are available, I think, for 2 weeks until Twitch obviously takes them off. But yeah, please follow us. Please support us. Let us know if there's anything that you would like to discuss. You know, we will put it on the show and we'll go through that. That's it from me for this week. I'll see you again next Friday. Have a great time.